antisocial teenager, along with a few others,
I don't really. Dude, just come on.
accidentally discovers the entrance to a cave hidden beneath the ground. Venturing inside, they find themselves transformed, gaining extraordinary powers that turn them into something close to superhuman. What begins as a chance discovery soon leads the group to perform strange and astonishing feats, driven by the newfound abilities they can barely comprehend.
Here she comes. Mormons. Whoa! Why did you do that? I didn't mean to.
The story begins with Andrew, who, after buying a second-hand video camera, decides to start recording his everyday life. His drunken father tries to force his way into Andrew's room, but Andrew refuses to open the door, afraid his father might hurt him. It's clear that this teenager's life is filled with hardship. His mother is gravely ill and being cared for by relatives. As usual, Matt arrives to pick up his cousin, and the two head off to school together, while Andrew continues filming with his new camera. He begins introducing his school to the lens as student election campaigns heat up around him. During lunch, he sits alone in the courtyard, still filming, which irritates a group of the school's cheerleaders.
Could you not videotape us, please? It's really creepy.
No, I wasn't.
Andrew's constant filming only makes him seem stranger to others, but he remains determined to keep going. Soon, the school bullies corner Andrew and rough him up, damaging his camera in the process. Yet he doesn't fight back. He simply can't. Later, Matt tells him they've been invited to a party that night and suggests he leave the camera at home for once, have a real night out, and maybe even meet some girls. That evening, while Andrew is reviewing his footage, his father storms into the room and beats him, furious that his son had locked the door earlier. A little later, Andrew and Matt arrive at the party. Matt urges Andrew to keep his distance and stop filming, but Andrew ignores him. Casey, another student, approaches Andrew and asks why he's filming, just like she is. Andrew admits he doesn't really have a reason, whereas Casey explains she's creating content for her blog. Moments later, Matt joins them, trying to impress Casey by praising her blog, hoping to spark a connection between them.
Awesome.
You're awesome.
A few minutes later, Andrew gets into trouble when a partygoer mistakenly thinks he's filming his girlfriend. The angry guy threatens Andrew and damages his camera again before storming off. That's when Steve, the school's popular student, approaches Andrew. He tells him there's something cool nearby he should record with his camera. Andrew hesitates at first, trying to decline, but when Steve mentions Matt's name, Andrew changes his mind and follows him. Steve asks Andrew to turn on his camera's flashlight, and the two head into the woods. When they find Matt, the trio discovers a strange crater in the ground, something that looks otherworldly. Despite Andrew's protests to go back, curiosity wins, and they all descend into the hole. Andrew keeps filming as they move through the eerie tunnel, determined to capture everything. Deep underground, they reach a glowing cavern that pulses with an unearthly light. Turning back now is no longer an option. As Steve touches one of the walls, the light shifts from blue to red. Moments later, all three start nosebleeding and collapse.
The camera cuts off, and when it starts again, days seem to have passed. The three friends are now practicing how to throw objects with their minds, discovering and testing the strange powers they've gained.
Oh my god. Oh, dude, you're...
Sick.
Awesome, dude.
Anders suggests returning to the crater to look for answers, but when they arrive, they find the entrance completely sealed and buried. Police officers quickly appear and warn them to leave immediately. The ground is unstable and the area is sinking. On the way back, Steve and Andrew, who have grown closer, start talking about their families. Andrew confesses that his father is a retired firefighter who now lives off insurance money and refuses to go back to work. He describes him as a violent drunk who constantly torments both him and his sick mother. Steve, despite coming from a wealthy family, admits he's facing similar problems. His mother is having an affair and his family is falling apart. Later that night, back home, Andrew finds that he can now control objects with even greater precision. In the background, his father's voice can be heard, pretending to sound pitiful as he calls the insurance company, trying to get more money because of his wife's illness. Though he receives the money, he never spends it on his family.
She needs something stronger. She's suffering. Please help me.
The next day, Andrew takes his mother downtown for coffee. She seems to know her time is running out and tells her son to stay strong and never give up. Matt reminds Andrew to put down the camera and live in the real world for once, warning him that everyone at school sees his obsession with filming as something strange. Andrew still doesn't care what others think. He refuses to abandon the story of his life halfway through. Things at school have changed. The three boys now spend most of their time together, experimenting with their powers and testing their limits. Andrew suggests they try showing off their abilities in public, but in subtle ways so no one suspects anything. They have a blast together, even pulling harmless pranks on a restaurant cashier.
Seriously?
In the parking lot afterward, Steve reveals a new level of their abilities, demonstrating just how powerful the trio has become. But they quickly learn that the more they push themselves, the more intense their nosebleeds get. On the way home, Andrew recklessly forces a car off the road, sending it tumbling down into a ravine. Horrified, Steve and Matt slam the brakes and rush toward the crash site. Steve pulls the driver out of the river, and they call the police for help.
Are you calling the cops? Shut up, I can't.
Matt and Steve then turn on Andrew, scolding him for going too far. Matt lays down a few strict rules. Their powers must never be used on living beings or when they're angry. From now on, they need to stay hidden. The existence of 3 superpowered teenagers could easily become a national security threat. The next day, Matt picks Andrew up as usual and apologizes for how harsh he was the night before. Meanwhile, Steve discovers he can fly. The three meet up in a secluded area, where Steve teaches them how to take off and control their flight. Over the following days, they soar through the skies with growing mastery, darting wherever they please, laughing and shouting as they play among the clouds, while Andrew, as always, films every moment. At one point, a plane passes dangerously close, throwing them off balance. Andrew calls the group together, and they all manage to land safely. Steve, exhilarated, calls them legends, the first humans ever to fly. The bond between the three grows stronger than ever. In a moment of lighthearted honesty, they each admit the last time they had sex. It turns out Andrew has never been with a girl, unlike the others. That night, after one of the best days of their lives, Matt confides that he's never felt this happy before, that he's grateful for his friends and their newfound closeness. The next day, Andrew suggests they travel to Tibet. He believes that among the monks and wise men, they could find inner peace, and then, as a symbolic gesture, fly back home from the Himalayas. But when Matt uses his mother's birthday as an excuse to skip their plans, he instead drives to Casey's house, hoping to see her. Like Andrew, Casey is constantly recording everything with her camera. Matt tries to impress her subtly, showing he's not like the other guys. But Casey values authenticity more than flashy displays of telekinesis. Meanwhile, Steve encourages Andrew to come out of his shell, literally and figuratively. He convinces him to sign up for the school's talent show, saying he should use a small bit of his power to wow the audience, and maybe even attract some girls. Thanks to Steve's financial help, Andrew gets a new outfit and prepares for his big performance. Before leaving for the event, however, his father, Richard, stops him and interrogates him about how he's been getting to school lately, since Matt hasn't been giving him rides for days. Richard has no idea his son's been flying there.
I'm on your shit.
That night, the school auditorium is packed with students eager to see the performances. When it's Andrew's turn, Matt films the show with Casey by his side. Steve, serving as the host, introduces Andrew on stage. Together they perform an illusion act, Andrew cleverly using small bursts of telekinesis to create spectacular tricks. The crowd erupts in cheers. Overnight, Andrew becomes the talk of the school. At the after-party, he basks in his newfound popularity. A pink-haired girl flirts with him, and during a simple cup and ball trick, he completely wins her over. Everything seems to be going perfectly, until Steve jokes that Andrew has disappeared into a bedroom with the girl.
Matt, half drunk and sentimental, records himself wishing his cousin luck. Casey joins him, and the two finally connect on a deeper level. She agrees to go on a date with him, and they leave the party together. Matt hands the camera to Steve before he goes. Steve, wanting to capture proof of Andrew's big moment, sneaks toward the room. But his plan falls apart when Andrew accidentally throws up on the pink-haired girl, ruining everything. Steve tries to comfort him, reminding him that he shouldn't just abandon the story halfway through. But Andrew, mortified, refuses to speak on camera and walks away. Later that night, Andrew returns home to find his mother's coughing worse than ever. Richard, taking advantage of Andrew's absence, snoops through his room out of suspicion. When he discovers the camera, he's furious, demanding to know why Andrew spent $500 on it while his mother is dying without enough money for medicine. He lashes out, blaming Andrew for everything wrong in their lives. But this time, Andrew doesn't back down. For the first time, he stands up to his abusive father. The fight escalates until Andrew, consumed by rage, uses his powers to knock his father unconscious with a single effortless move. The surge of energy reverberates miles away. Matt, suddenly struck by a nosebleed, senses something's wrong. He's at Casey's place where he's been staying. And instead of answering Steve's repeated calls, he chooses to ignore them and crawl back into bed with his new girlfriend. Meanwhile, Andrew has run away from home, soaring into the night sky to escape everything. Steve eventually tracks him down and pleads with him to come back to the ground. Just before he finds him, Steve's nose starts bleeding too, as if something supernatural is pulling him toward his troubled friend. Andrew, however, doesn't want comfort. He warns Steve again and again to leave him alone. But moments later, lightning flashes across the sky, and a deafening thunderclap sends them both spiraling downward. A few days later, Steve's funeral is held. The turnout is huge. Students, teachers, and townspeople all mourning the school's golden boy. Matt, distraught and unable to reach Andrew for days, finally finds him there. He demands answers. How could Steve have been struck by lightning when there were no storms reported anywhere nearby? His body had been found lifeless in a field outside town. Matt blames Andrew and orders him to turn off the camera. They can't tell anyone what really happened, and the weight of that secret eats away at Matt. Andrew, overcome with grief, returns alone after the funeral, kneels by Steve's grave, and breaks down crying. Later, with his levitating camera hovering beside him, he revisits the crater where everything began, but it's gone now, completely filled in, erased by time and earth.
At school, Andrew's embarrassing incident at the party has become a running joke. Everyone mocks him. This time, though, when the school bully comes for him, Andrew fights back, telekinetically ripping out 3 of the boy's teeth. The shy, quiet kid is gone. He's no longer defenseless. It's clear that Andrew's powers, and Matt's, are growing stronger. Matt visits him, warning him to stop causing trouble before someone notices what they can do. He doesn't want to end up as a government lab rat now that he's finally found happiness with Casey. But Andrew isn't interested in lectures. All he wants is to buy medicine for his dying mother. He orders Matt out of his room and tries to get her pills on credit at a nearby pharmacy. The pharmacist refuses. Desperate, Andrew dons his father's old firefighter uniform and decides to take matters into his own hands. He first targets a group of local thugs, robbing them after a violent confrontation, but it's not enough. He needs more money. In a final act of desperation, Andrew attempts to rob a supermarket. Something goes wrong. His powers spiral out of control, and the store explodes. When Richard rushes to the hospital, police are already stationed outside Andrew's room. Inside, he finds his son comatose, barely alive, covered in burns. Richard tearfully confesses that while searching the streets for Andrew the night before, his wife died alone. He blames Andrew for everything, for stealing, for fighting, for making him miss his wife's final moments. No one seems capable of understanding Andrew's pain. But at that moment, something strange happens. Matt's nose starts bleeding again. He knows Andrew is in danger.
The news broadcasts a breaking story, a massive explosion at the hospital, suspected to be a bombing. Matt and Casey rush out of the party they're attending and speed toward the scene. By the time they arrive, police have cordoned off the area. Using his powers, Matt stops Richard from falling off the edge of the hospital roof, saving his life. He tries to flee the scene with Casey, but Andrew, now awake, enraged, and out of control, drags their car toward him using his telekinesis. Matt barely manages to pull Casey from the vehicle before it crashes.
Stay here, okay?
Then he rises into the sky to confront his cousin, who's surrounded by police atop a nearby tower. Dozens of onlookers below film the chaos on their phones, astonished by the sight of two flying figures battling above the city. Matt pleads with Andrew to stop, telling him he's hurting innocent people. But Andrew, lost in grief and anger, screams that no one understands him. Matt insists that he's always cared, that he's there now, fighting beside him, trying to save him. Andrew has lost everything. His mother, his father's love, his dignity, his purpose. He no longer sees a reason to live. The two clash fiercely in midair, debris and wind swirling around them. As the fight escalates, Andrew begins to lose control completely. Matt intervenes before the police can open fire, shielding his cousin, but it's too late. To prevent Andrew from killing more people in his frenzy, Matt is forced to end his life. It's a tragic end to a tortured boy's story. Sometime later, Matt is seen alone, standing on a mountaintop in Tibet, gazing out over the endless white peaks. He sets down Andrew's old camera, lets it hover in the cold air, and silently dedicates a moment of peace to the memory of his two lost friends.